All right. Okay, cool. Welcome to week 2 of creative presentation work. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to minimize this screen. I'm sure other people will be coming in. If you need anything from me, please text my phone because I'm going to minimize this chat box so I won't see you. So you can always text me on my cell phone. And I'm going to put that in the chat right here just to make sure everybody can text me if anything happens or anything. 484-423-4148. There we go. Okay, all right. Let's get started. All right, week 2. You made it through week 1. And like I was saying earlier, I'm going to make sure that your grading is completed for at least either your assignment or your discussion tomorrow on Thursday. And then the other one will be for Friday. I'm not sure which one I'll start with in this class. I'll probably start with your first assignment and then your discussion on Friday, something like that. If you prefer that I start with the discussion tomorrow, if everybody's freaking out about that instead of the assignment, just let me know. The 5 theses of the power of a presentation. So we're going to be briefly reviewing and talking about some things from the textbooks this week. This is a brief review of chapter 12 from Slideology. Hopefully you are enjoying Slideology this week. I have been a fan of Slideology for quite a few years now. I love that book. It's fantastic. All right. So, how do you get inspired? Well, we all get inspired by different things, right? We get inspired from music, we get inspired from visual pictures, images. That's why we all love Instagram and Snapchat, right? And videos, speeches, presentations, movies, right? So we have some wonderful visuals right here for you. Visuals are very inspiring. So how do others get inspired? Well, it's not easy to recognize how others may get inspired because you're not them, right? So I'm actually going to take you guys off mute now. Hopefully everybody quieted down by now. And where's my mute thing? There it is. Okay, here we go. There is some noise. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out who it is. Somebody has children in the background. Okay. Not sure who that is. If you could mute yourself, that'd be helpful. Thank you. I guess that was Cortland. All right, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this again. I wanted to make sure that you all can kind of discuss with me as I ask you questions and stuff. All right. So how do others get inspired, right? And like I was saying, it's not easy to recognize how other people get inspired, but essentially we're all emotional creatures. You know, we all get inspired, like I was saying before, from images, visuals, and inspirational, motivational language.
Thank God.
All right, I guess I'm going to have to mute all of you.
I still have the cash.
If you'd like to speak, I guess, here, let me open the chat. Nobody said anything. Well, I guess you can you raise your hand on this platform? Yeah, it looks like you can. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways. All right. So with Slideology, they were talking about how you need to treat your audience as your king, right? As they are, it's all about them, right? Your presentation is about them. It's not about you. So they didn't come to your presentation to see you. They actually came to find out what you can do for them. So success means giving them a reason for taking their time, providing content that resonates with them, and ensuring that it's clear what they are to do. You know, what's the reason why they're there? What are they going to learn? So you really want to focus on the audience and not yourself when you're presenting. Many people, they get very focused on themselves when they're putting together a presentation. They're like, oh, they're there to see me. They're here to hear my story and my message. Well, only if it's going to be relevant to them. Because really, you want to talk in terms of the other man's interest. Whenever you're presenting, communicating, selling, persuading, motivating, you always want to think about, why is this person listening to me? So it comes down to connection. How can you connect with your audience? So connection has everything to do with, people feeling engaged and relatable to your content. So in connection, why do you think connection is important in a presentation? I'm going to take this down. I'm going to go back over here. And if you would like to type a message into the chat box, I can see the chat box now. So if any of you would like to respond to that, how can you connect with your audience and why is it important? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to try to take this off mute for a moment and we'll see, because sometimes what happens is someone's not listening and they have it on, so they're not really paying attention to me saying, hey, who's being loud? All right. Okay, Nathan, relate to them on their level. Yes, exactly. You want to relate to them on their level. When they can relate to you, they're likely to listen to you, right? So there were 7 questions. I'm going to pull up these 7 questions. Let's see, I have them down here. Let's see if it's this one. It's either this one or the other one. Here it is. I took a screenshot from Slideology for you guys. 7 questions on how you can really think about your audience and get to know your audience and why they might be there. So right here we say, what are they like, right? Why are they here? What keeps them up at night? How can you solve their problem? What do you want them to do? How might they resist? How can you best reach them, right? So you want to figure out how to relate to them by answering questions like this. These are some great questions for really thinking about the audience when you're putting together your presentation. So connection is key. Thank you, Nathan. All right. Then we have spread ideas and move people from the book, right? Creating great ideas is what we were born to do. Getting people to feel like they have a stake in what we believe is the hard part. Communicate your ideas with strong visual grammar to engage all their senses, and they will adopt the ideas as their own. Right? That comes from your book, Slideology. And really, inspiring someone is, it's when you get in their head and they feel like, you know what, we're on the same path here. We have some common interests and common goals. We're here for the same reason. It's getting people to everything in this presentation is relatable to them. They can adopt the ideas as their own. That's how you move people, when you're relating on their level, just like Nathan said. You want to help them see what you are saying. So from the book, it says, epiphanies and profoundly moving experiences come from moments of clarity. Think like a designer and guide your audience through ideas in a way that helps, not hinders, their comprehension of it. So you want to appeal not only to their verbal senses, but to their visual senses as well. You see, this is a really catchy picture. When you can grab people's attention with a nice supporting visual, you can really, it helps to get all of the senses going. In marketing and stuff, if you go around to some stores now, they have everything from sound elements that grab your attention, to smell, right, to visual. So you really want to think about all the different senses and how you can engage them. And visual is a very important part of supporting your verbal element. Imagery is there to support your verbal content, though. You want to really, as I said right here on the slide, you want to think about. Let me minimize this. You want to help them see what you are saying, right? You don't want the visuals to take over, though. You want them to support you, and we're going to talk more about that. So getting the audience to see what you're saying is part of the presentation. The visual support is important to enhance the statements while not distracting or detracting. You want to practice design and not decoration, right? So here we have, two images. The one on the left is very cluttered, right? And the one on the right is very organized. Now, the cool thing about the faces, little emojis or emoticons or whatever, they actually help communicate the idea of the images. So on the left, you have a little confused, looking negative looking face, and that's in front of kind of a cluttered looking image behind it, the background, right? You wouldn't want to put any visuals on there, any like words or anything. On the right side, we have a very nice organized picture and a little happy face. So right there, it's telling you, hey, this is good and this is not so good, right? So you don't want to just make pretty talking points, though. Instead, you want to display information in a way that makes complex information clear. Right? So you're working to simplify your message here with supporting images, supporting content. So it could even be words, right? You want to simplify. And again, practice design, not decoration. Right here, perfect example of a really nice slide. Right? You have a nice big visual on half the screen, and the other half of the screen you just have some nice keywords that make this whole image make sense. It says cultivate healthy relationships. And you have, a monkey and a cat. They're very different type of creatures, but they look like they love each other, right? It seems like a healthy relationship. So it's a fun way of communicating, cultivate healthy relationships. Simplifies the message and makes it a little fun. It's a good supporting type of visual. Okay, let me open up the chat box, make sure nobody had any questions over here because I can't hear you guys. Okay, cool. Everybody's good so far. Okay, all right, moving on into the presentation ecosystem. Right, so in the book on chapter 1, hopefully you read this already, on page 10 they show you that visual diagram of the ecosystem for presentations, and it's the three-legged stool, as they were talking about, that supports itself. You have the message, the visual story, and the delivery. And those three elements create the presentation. Right, so with a three-legged stool, if you remove any of the three legs, it will not be stable. Right, so you have the message, you have the visual story, and you have the delivery of the presentation. Now, as you go through your courses here at Full Sail, you will be creating presentations throughout. So you want to be able to do all three of these very effectively because you will be graded on all three of these throughout your program. So let's look at each of these three elements of the presentation. The first thing we'll look at is the message. All right, so the message is broken down into 4 categories in that ecosystem, right? The 4 categories of the message are the audience, right? That's who you're giving the message to. The ideation, which is the idea of the message. The writing, and critique. And we'll go into these. So when we put together the message, we must first analyze the audience. So let's look at the audience. You want to think about who is the audience. And remember, I just showed you those 7 questions from your Slideology book. You want to answer those questions about the audience. You want to develop, create an audience persona, right? Or think about that one person that's coming to listen to your message. And you can just think about it from that perspective. That's what I'm always doing. I always create one person and I focus on that one person. And that helps me to really think about what kind of message I'm giving and helps me answer all the questions. So you want to think about things like, do you have shared experiences with them? Do you have common goals with them? If you do, you're going to become very relatable, and you have to really know what those common experiences are and focus on them, those common goals. That's what helps us to relate and engage people, right? So you might want to think, okay, we're both, business people, right? Or we're both entrepreneurs, or we're both musicians or entertainers, right? Or we're both single moms. So whatever it is you can relate with them about, you want to think about that. You want to maybe even write that down, really focus on that when you're putting together your message to them. Why are they there to see you, and what is it that's similar between you guys? All right, so moving on to, oh, sorry, no, we're still in audience. Another question that you want to think about is, what are some of the trends or themes within the audience, right? And this kind of ties right back into what I was just saying. Think about what it is that's common between you and the audience. Think about what is the audience as a whole? What is the theme of the audience? Are these all investors, right? Who are you speaking to? Are they all, I don't know, teachers? Are they all stockbrokers, right? So you have to think, what is the theme of my audience, the trends of my audience? And you're talking about that in Slideology. Why are you uniquely qualified to be their guide? So maybe you have a similar journey that you have gone on with maybe a positive outcome. Maybe you're a salesperson or a CEO, and that's what they're striving to be. So, you want to think about what qualifies you to give them this message. And that really helps when you're putting together your presentation. You really have to focus on that, because if you can't tell them why, they're not going to want to listen, right? Okay, now we're moving on to ideation. The second part of creating an effective message is ideation. So coming up with the ideas and developing the themes is what this is all about. This is where you start brainstorming, right, or mind mapping. I always start with a brainstorm. And when you brainstorm, you don't want to really filter, right? You want to just jot down as many ideas as you can, just write. And then you go in and you can, pick and choose from the brainstorm of maybe your key ideas, maybe examples, whatever you're brainstorming about. And then you create like a little mind map. So you start kind of bubbling things together where you say, well, these stories and examples go with this main point. And these stories and examples go with this main point. And typically you want 3 main points to a presentation. Right, and then we have the writing of the message. I'm going to go ahead and see if any of you have asked any questions over here. Feel free to ask questions or make comments in the chat box. Because again, I can't unmute you guys because somebody has sound on, craziness going on in the background. So then we have the writing of the message. You need an outline. Important part of the writing process. So now that you've had your little mind map and you made your bubbles and stuff, right? You want to create an outline. Now, if you're going to present in front of people, right, you want to make sure that you have a nice clean outline that you rehearse with. If you are going to be presenting over a recorded video presentation by yourself, right, you want to have a script. And when you write out a script, and you rehearse it enough times, it will sound natural when you're speaking, right? You don't want to just read and be monotone. I'm sure you've heard people do that and it just flows in, and you can't listen to that, right? You want to be what's called extemporaneous. Extemporaneous is conversational, where your voice goes up and down, right? So that's, oh, sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead here, but again, you need an outline or you need a script, and you want to write out some of your stories. So if you have stories to tell, write them out. It will help you kind of put them together in an organized fashion when you rehearse them. And you might want to read them over a few times, rehearse with the stories in front of you, and then rehearse without them. All right. So let's look at the second element of presentation then, the visual story. The visual story, oh, before I move into visual story and away from just the message itself, I'm going to open the chat box, make sure everyone's okay, see if anybody needs anything. All right, we're looking all right. All right, so visual story. Visual story is broken down into 4 categories in your book. Right? Visual thinking, graphic design, motion design, and finally critique, because we're going to talk about critique at the end of these 3 elements, right? We have message, visual story, and delivery. So when we get through delivery, then I'll mention critique at the end here. It's just about rehearsing and stuff. So your visual story, though, is broken down into 4 categories. So a story can be told through visuals alone. If you've seen the old movie, I don't remember when it was made, the 50s, I think, the movie called The Red Balloon. It's something I remember having to watch in elementary school, and I know a lot of people my age had to watch in elementary school. It's now on like Hulu or Netflix or something. I saw it on there and I had to watch it a couple of weeks ago just because it was so funny that it was on there. It's a very, you can actually watch the movie and it's in, I don't remember if it's in French, I think, or something. And there's not that much words in the actual movie, but you can just watch it as a foreign film and not even have English subtitles, and you get the whole movie. You know, it's about a balloon and a boy. And so a visual story can tell itself. And if you've ever seen any of the old original movies without sound, you know that. But in presentations, you know, you don't want the visual to take over your message, right? You want that to be a supporting type of thing. So let's start with visual thinking. Okay, so you want to sketch your storyboard. And what I have here on the left is an example of, like, if you go to Keynote or PowerPoint, you can print out a storyboard. I've done this a lot when putting together business presentations. I would just go print out this little storyboard feature, which is light boxes, I think they call it on Keynote. And it has like the little lines there. You can fill it out. And that helps you to organize your thoughts. Right, and over here on the right, you can see the arrows. They have little arrows flowing from one idea to the other, and that helps you to organize it as well. I prefer to do mind mapping with bubbles and stuff, and then I take that and put it into a storyboard like what you see here on the left. So this helps you to create that flow of your presentation. You know, this is where you create your word maps and your diagrams. And there are a few really good web resources out there for you to use. The visual element should simplify the message. Remember I was telling you that? So let's go over here. I'm going to pull up the internet for you. And here's your Slideology book. This is called coggle.it. And this right here is a website where you can do like mind mapping and stuff.
Welcome to the Coggle introduction. Let's sign in and create a new Coggle. Rename the Coggle by clicking in the central box. This will also change the Coggle's file name. There we are, animals. Let's add some animals. Hovering over arrowheads shows the plus button. Click to add a node. I'll call this one cat. To change text, just click on the text box. Right, let's add some more stuff. Okay, my Coggle has some animals in it. Now, dragging those around will move them.
So you can see this is kind of a fun little thing you can use. That's coggle.it. I'll put that right here for you guys. Coggle.it. And I'm going to X out of that one. Go to bubble.us. And this is another way to do brainstorming and mind mapping and stuff. You can use this feature, a wonderful little feature right here. I still use pen and paper, guys. I don't use these systems. I just like to use pen and paper. Kind of old school like that. But that's Bubble. Cortland, yeah. You're on the same page with me, huh? All right, and we have Poplet. This one, Poplet for school, for learning in the classroom and at home. Use iPad and web to capture and organize your ideas. It's just another mind mapping and brainstorming type of platform. So again, that's Poplet. Here, I'll put this one over here in the chat box for you. You know, and if you're at home watching the recording, you can see up on the top of my screen, you can see the URLs. Poplet.com. There you go. Or bubblegum wrappers, whatever is available. Nice, Elizabeth. Okay, there we go. All right, and go back over here to the slides. And okay, so that'll get you guys started with your mind mapping and brainstorming and stuff, hopefully. All right. So, you know, really at this point, you know, you've done your brainstorming, created a kind of flow. You want to think about which point goes first when you're thinking visually. You want to, at this point, turn words into pictures. So if you, what I always do when I create a presentation is I think, okay, how can I make these words just turn into a picture, right? So if I'm talking about, you know, a frog, then I would find a picture of a frog. Right, and I would put the picture of the frog instead of the word the frog on there. Or if I'm talking about WEA, you know, Warner Electric Atlantic, the big record label, I wouldn't use, you know, the words WEA. I would probably just go find the WEA logo and I put that on the slides. So you really want to work on turning your words into pictures, and you know, make sure you reference all your data. So if you find images somewhere, make sure you put it at least on the presenter notes or at the end in a reference page. You want to make sure that in your presenter notes is a good place to use, you know, to put your reference list and stuff for each of the slides. So for instance, on this slide, you'd want to put at the bottom, you know, if you use like a picture from a Creative Commons website, you'd want to put the link there. Okay, and then let's move on to graphic design now, right? We have the design element of your visual story here. This is where you determine colors, establish the background of your slides. You might want to brand your slides at this point. So if you're working for a company, or maybe this is your company or something, you might want to brand the slides with maybe a certain color theme and maybe a logo in the corner. You can also, I'm going to show you a quick little trick here. I'm going to take you up here. So you can also see my screen. So this is my keynote, right? And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to, let's see, go to View, Edit Master Slides. This takes me to the master slides. These are all the slides, the designs, the themes of the slides of all the masters, right, for this keynote. Right. So at this point, I can go in and I can edit the masters here. And then you can click Done after you do some editing and everything. So that's where you edit master slides on Keynote. And I'm just going to go right here and go down to Exit Master Slides. I don't want to mess them up. But you know, you want to work with your design features and everything at this point, themes and colors. And if you want to learn more about how to work with Keynote at an intimate level and working with master slides and stuff, well, you want to go over here to lynda.com. This will help you out tremendously. We provide this for you at Full Sail University. This is lynda.com. It's lynda.com, and we actually subscribe to this very nice, expensive platform for you guys, and it has tutorials on how to use any type of software you have. Any type of software out there is here. How to design things on PowerPoint, how to design things on Keynote, how to, do anything, how to present, how to do 3D animation, how to create video or audio, you name it, it is here on lynda.com. So please use this if you want to find out more about like using the design features of Keynote. If you're not real good with that or anything, you're just learning, I would strongly urge you to use lynda.com for that. And it's free. It's a free thing that you have here at Full Sail. You can access it right through Connect. I think you can just go to lynda.com. The way I've always done it is just go to lynda.com and just go to sign in, log in right here. And I think you can just put in your information, but I don't know. You might need to go through Connect. I'm not a student, so I'm not sure how you guys do it. Anyways. All right, so we're talking about graphic design. I have another little slide here on graphic design. You can also, beyond just, as you see this guy right here, he's selecting images, right? It looks like he's selecting images. So you want to select your images that you want to use in your presentation, and you want to assemble a template. So a template is a shell for your words and your images, like you see here. You see on my Keynote, I have the round visual in the front, and that's like, instead of having graphic design at the top of the slides, which you would typically see in a regular presentation, I put it right there in front for you to see. Right, we have that as the title of the slide, graphic design, right there in front of you. And then we have two sides to it, right? You have a left side and a right side. And on some slides, you have two pictures, on the slide, and then others you have a picture and then words. So that's like a template. It's a style, right? And that's just, and at the top of the slide, you can see the little orange bar up there. So this is a template. It creates a consistent look and a consistent feel throughout your presentation. So your audience becomes accustomed to the structure of where everything is on the slide and where the heading is placed, where the images are typically, right, the flow of the slides. So once you have your images, your colors, your basic template, you want to add the motion aspect to your visual story. Now be careful here. You don't want to distract your audience with purposeless movement. So every movement that you create with an animation on your slides, that's going to distract your audience from you as the presenter. So make sure you have a good reason for using any types of animation or any type of motion on your slides. And this is a key communication strategy in presentation work. It has to be very purposeful. So determine your purpose for it, and you can also determine the speed and the direction of your animations. So you want to think about what needs to move, if anything, and how fast it needs to move. So I use some features myself when I create slideshows and stuff, and I'm going to show you about that here. If you go up here to the top, right? Oh, sorry, yeah. I think I added a slide just to do that. Yeah, I did. Okay, so I have an example slide I'm going to play with for a moment just to show you guys how this stuff works. I'm going to add text, right, and grab it right here, and I'm going to write like up here. Right. And I want to make it a little bigger, so I'm going to go over here on the right, and I'm going to make the font bigger. You typically want your font to be at least 40 point on a slide. I like to make them a whole lot bigger. You don't really need a lot of words, so we'll do 75, right? And I'm going to create a second text, so I'll make it, I'm going to duplicate this one, so then I don't have to go and add another text box and expand it, make it bigger, font, and everything. Command D duplicates, right? So now I have another one right here. You see how it made it so it is at the same size and everything. It's really nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate. Right? Go to animate, add an effect. I'm going to build in action or build out. Build in, let's just do appear. Easy, simple, doesn't distract, right? And what happens here is it says which order, right? This one is first, right? You can always switch them. You can change it. Delivery all at once, or you can do by paragraph and stuff. And then this one, add an effect. We'll make it appear, and it automatically makes it as number 2. So let me show you how that works. Click play. I'm going to go, oh, appear, right? And now appear. And there you go. That's animation. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. That's what I like to use because it doesn't really distract from my presentation. If you want to get crazy and fancy and distract a little bit, be super careful, right? We can change it to, I don't know, let's use something crazy. Let's use cube. Right, and we can slow it down. You see the duration right here? So now let's preview. Ooh, appears. So now everybody's looking at that and watching it instead of listening to me. So you don't want that to happen, right? And this right here, we could even add an effect here. Let's make that pop. You see how fast that went? Let's slow it down. I like to slow it down a little bit. Preview, and there you go. So that's how you animate. It's pretty simple. You just go in and create an action, add an effect, anything you want. You can do a build out, and that way you can kind of make everything fly off, and then some other stuff can fly on. So yeah, anyways, if you go on Lynda, you can learn all about those features. They're super cool, but just be careful, don't use too many of them. All right, opened up my screen over here, and nobody said anything yet. All right. And we have appear, right? Very distracting, very unnecessary. Pop. All right. So anyways, moving on to delivery, the third leg of your presentation, right? So delivery is broken down into 4 categories. We have human, which is the human element of delivering the presentation, web or device, paper, and again, critique. So let's start with the human element first, of course. Now, when you're thinking about the human element, the person that you're talking to, right? When you're in front of an audience, right? Whether you are on the computer or whether you're in front of them on a live stage, you want to use your hands. You want to use gestures, right? You want to hold eye contact with people in the audience. Now, here's an interesting thing for you guys to know, very interesting trick. If you have any type of anxiety while you're presenting, right, and you're working with people you can see, a lot of people in the past I've heard say things like, yeah, just look out at the wall behind everyone, or look at their foreheads, or just look at all of them as a sea instead of looking at one person. Oh, that's the worst thing you can do. That will make you so anxious. So whether you're a musician, performer up on stage, or you're presenting a presentation, you want to connect with your audience. And when you connect with your audience, it will calm your nerves. So for instance, before you come in, before you start presenting, if you can talk to people in the audience beforehand, it's a great way to get you to calm down and get you prepared so that when you get up there, you're super comfortable compared to how you would be if you didn't. And another thing, when you're up there, you want to look at people and you want to talk to them. So you want to think about each person in the room is there to hear you individually. So think about individuals. Look at individuals. And you want to hold eye contact for about 2 to 3 seconds at a time. And then you'll notice that your eyes kind of flitter off to different parts of the face, or to maybe look past them a little bit every couple of seconds. Next time you're sitting down and having coffee with someone, pay attention to the eye contact, right? You'll notice that if you hold eye contact for too long, even after a few seconds, it just gets a little weird feeling. So again, connect with your audience. Look at members and they will respond to you. People that are smiling at you or or like responding non-verbally to you and paying attention, look at them. Look at them and talk to them. And this will really help you with any type of anxiety. It will help you connect, and people will feel so much closer to you, and they'll really listen. You know, a great front person on stage for like a band, you watch them. They always connect. They look at people in the audience and they talk to them. And they put their hands down there and they touch people, right? And they have open body language. So that's the best way to calm your own nerves down and to be a better presenter. Connect with individuals in the audience. Right. So also, I want to mention proper inflection of your voice. What I mean here is using vocal dynamics. You hear how I get a little louder and then I get a little quieter, and how my pitch is going up and down, right? I'm not a singer myself, so I don't really know what it's called, my tone, my pitch, whatever. But I'm using vocal dynamics, right? I'm going up and down, getting louder, getting quieter, but also I'm pausing. Now, you might think when you're presenting, oh my God, if I stop talking, I'll be so nervous, right? Or people are going to get bored. I'm not talking fast enough. You want to pace yourself, and you want to use the pause. If you ever listen to a really funny comedian, they pause a lot. It's called the power of the pause, right? When you pause, it really engages the person, and the words you said sink in. And that's what makes somebody powerful. It makes them funny, right? It makes them witty. It makes them come off as more confident. So in sales, a good salesperson, right, they will pause. And it creates, like a little bit more of a power and control for the salesperson, because when they pause, they're not saying anything. Now you have to say something if you're going to buy from them. You have to now talk. So it makes it a more powerful presentation. So anyways, power of the pause, super important. Make sure you're using pause throughout your presentation. It should be very natural though, right? It should be after you make a main point or you say a few things, give an example, a story, a brief pause, just like I'm doing right now. I'm not pausing for a few seconds, but I'm pausing enough to be natural and to accentuate the things that I'm saying. So you want to rehearse to make sure that you have powerful pause, make sure you have vocal dynamics, make sure you're using your body when you're speaking, because even when you're speaking and nobody's looking at you, you can tell the difference between if they're using gestures or not. So right now, when I'm talking to you, you can't see me, but I am using my hands, I am using my whole body to talk. Because if I'm not, it's not as animated, right? I'm not as engaged with you, right? It's not the same type of feeling. Okay, so we have a picture of race cars over here. Pace, right? Pace yourself, pace appropriately, make sure you rehearse. You want to be conversational. Identify any props you might want to use. Okay, so next we have the web and device element of the presentation. So at this point you want to integrate media. You want to maybe dramatize the recorded audio that you created. Oop, I just unplugged it for a second. You want to add sound elements, or maybe sound logos with the audio. You could also use a microphone. I have microphones at the house here I use when I'm creating a video presentation or anything. I always use my microphones. You can get them for a decent price over at like Sam Ash or something. You can order them online if you really want to go that far. But anyways, then we have the props we bring into the live presentation. Even if it's on the web, you could have people download props if you're presenting online. So it could be like maybe a PDF handout or something, and they could download it, or you could hand things out. But you don't want to give anybody a handout until after the presentation is over. It really distracts from you when you hand something out to people, brochures or whatnot, and you're presenting. they're going to be reading these brochures while you're talking. They're not listening to you. Don't give anyone anything to look at while you are talking. Save that for the end. You know, any type of brochures, any type of handouts, keep them to yourself until the end. And also another thing is flip charts. People still use flip charts a lot when they're kind of drawing things out for people quickly or writing, key points down. Use flip charts. You could use something like that if you're doing a presentation. And finally, you want to review your work and critique. So rehearse. I'm going to show you a feature here when you are creating your presentations. Right, you're going to design your slides and everything, and then when you're ready to record, click up here on the Play tab, and then you go to Rehearse Slideshow. And there are, wonderful presenter notes at the bottom, right? And then brainstorming guidelines is the one that you can rehearse right there. It says, and you click the tab button over the little arrow button. It takes me to the next one, and I can sit here and talk, and then I can click again, right? So now I'm rehearsing. But after I rehearse, I can then go up here and click Record Slideshow. And what happens is I go down here, I click record, and then I can record. And then when I export this into QuickTime, all you have to do is go to File, click Export in QuickTime. It will actually make it into a regular QuickTime video. You won't see the presenter notes. You won't see that second slide. It'll just be a nice big slide and then your audio, your voice. It's fantastic. And then you can play back by clicking on the little playback button right here, play or pause. And then if you don't like it, you can click that little garbage can over there, or you can go up here and click clear recording. I don't have a recording, so I don't have a way to clear it, but you can click it right there. So there you go. There's some little pointers for you guys. And make sure nobody's saying anything. Nope. Oh, uh-oh. Okay, I have a text from one of you saying you lost connection. So I guess that's maybe just one person. Anybody else? Somebody just type in the chat box for me. Make sure I have everybody here still. Okay. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. All right, just want to make sure. So it's just one person that lost connection. Then it must have been their internet or something. All right. Cool, thank you. All right, so go back to critiques, which is where we were at. So rehearse. And then you can record, and you can clear your recordings if you don't like it and do it over again. Make sure you listen to your recording before you turn it in. I've had students where all of a sudden the audio cut out in the middle of it, and they're like, oh, I didn't watch, my presentation, I guess. I just kind of checked the beginning, and it's like, well, you need to watch the whole thing before you turn it in. Make sure everything's okay. Let's see. And that's critique, really. It's just making sure everything's okay, rehearsing and recording and just critiquing yourself. You might even want to rehearse in front of your cat or dog if you have one, or rehearse in front of a mirror is really good if you're going to get in front of people, or record yourself on video camera before. But anyway, let's move on to brainstorming. I'd like to start a conversation here. Let me see. I'm going to go back over here to attendees, and I'm going to see if I can open back up for all of you. See if there's still noise. Yeah, there's still noise, unfortunately. It's got to be Ronnie. Yeah, it was. Okay, because that was the only person that wasn't muted. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So tell me, how have you designed presentations in the past, and maybe how did you come up with like a mind map or an outline? Did you have anybody have an organized method for doing that? Hello? Miriam, I think you, it's Tony, you two are on.
I keep you're breaking up.
Oh, okay. I'll turn it back on mute then. Yeah, we're having trouble with that. Okay, can y'all hear me okay when I have you all muted? Is it better that way? It's too bad I can't use that feature. Okay, all right. Okay, well, we will just we'll keep it to the chat box then. If anybody would like to chime in on how you've designed presentations in the past, maybe you started with brainstorming or maybe mind mapping, or maybe you just wrote an outline, or maybe you just wrote the actual presentation or the script. Anybody want to contribute here on how you got started with your presentations in the past before you had this class? Yeah, Ronnie, it might be better if we were all in headphones. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Dustin says brainstorming and first drafts. Okay, so first drafts as in you would write out the scripts, I guess. I basically do a huge mind dump on paper and then piece it together. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like to do mind maps. I do like a main point or a topic like in the middle of a piece of paper, and I put a big circle around it, and then I'll put like 3 main lines coming out from it, and that way I have my 3 main points that surround that one topic. And then from there, I'll create those 3 main points, and then I'll put little examples around them. So it's like a little, mind map. I like doing it that way. So everybody's process will be a little different, but it's just a good idea to have like a good starting point for brainstorming and planning. Like I told you guys, I start with a mind map, and then from there I move into messing around with the storyboard. I print out some actual light boxes from my slideshow that don't have anything in them. And then I put some ideas into the boxes, like I'll put like example pictures, or I'll even write in, I'll put a picture of this here, right? And then on the notes next to it, I'll write in, my main points for the slide. So that's always really helpful to do it that way. An outline is absolute key, I think. You guys are putting together a plan this week, and you can turn in your plan however you want. The main thing is, I'm going to go over here real quick. I'm going to show you. Oh, I'm not trying to end the training. Hang on. So anyways, I wanted to show you, let's see, planning the presentation. Okay. And this is your instruction sheet for the week, right? Planning your presentation. And this right here is what you have to answer. So you have to hit each of these points, right? Who is your audience, right? Detail your flow of ideas. You can present this through a mind map, a basic outline, a spark line. Just make sure you include the beginning, middle, and end of the story. A visual plan or storyboard. What tools are you planning to use? Explain the true message you want to convey. Consider the obstacles. Share your thoughts on what you think will be the hardest part of the presentation. So you have to hit each of these ideas here. So you might want to just go through and make and write this out, where you include an outline, and then you have bullet points before and after the outline that kind of make sure that start off with who is your audience, right? And you can put that at the top, and then detail your flow of ideas with a nice little outline. And then under that, you can have some main points that are just like bullets of what tools you plan to use, your true message, obstacles, and you could end it with a little sentence or two on what you think the hardest part of the presentation will be, whether it's production or delivery. So again, as long as you hit all of these elements and you're pretty organized with it, you'll be fine. This is just the planning stage. So it's not like you have to write a formal outline and give that to me at this point. You want to make sure that you touch on all of these elements though. I will be grading you to the instruction sheet. Also, let's see. Here's the rubric. right here, this is what I grade you to. Content. So all project requirements are met. Student addresses content thoroughly. So I will actually go here and I will go, okay, did they do this? Did they do this? Right? Did they do all of these? Did they do this? So I go through that and I'm like, okay, is there a little bit of depth there? So critical thinking component. The content is precise, detailed, in depth, and well supported. So you want to have your references included, right? Whatever research you do to support your points and stuff, include your references, include those points with citations throughout your actual paper, right? Whether it's an outline or whatever it might be, a mind map, make sure it has the actual references. And it says, it is clear that all ideas were considered thoroughly for all requirements of the presentation plan. So that is worth 35 points. So critical thinking, making sure you have depth there, you're really thinking it through. And then we have relevance, 35 points. The project's content is directly related to course materials, whether it's books, videos, articles, the teaching that I'm doing today. I can tell, I mean, you know, I've been teaching this forever. I can tell if you're not reading the material and you're not really applying the actual content to your project. So just be careful with that. And then finally, we have the mechanics. Student writes in complete sentences. Yes, your outline needs to be in complete sentences. And demonstrates exceptional command of grammar and mechanics with no errors in basic sentence structure. Now, of course, this is for outstanding. It's worth about 5 points. You know, if you have some grammatical stuff, you'll get 4 points, you know, if you have a few. But if you're having a real hard time with writing and stuff, you definitely need to see the Writing Center. And there we go. So that's your rubric, and that's your your second assignment. That's your assignment for this week. Where did my presentation go? There it is. Oh boy. So when you're brainstorming, you know, you want to postpone your judgment of your ideas. Like I was saying, just write. Encourage your crazy ideas. And quantity counts at this stage, not quality. So at the brainstorming stage, when you're just brainstorming, before you create that outline, quantity over quality. Just write. Rule number 4, build on ideas put forth by others. So if you can get some ideas from other people, if you can get people to read over your work, it's always helpful. And every idea and every person has equal worth. So when you're brainstorming with other people, make sure that you never like judge another person's ideas in brainstorming. And I want you to pick 5 verbs here from this page that you would like to include in your presentation style. So an important aspect in presentation work is your style. So somebody in the chat box, write in 1 or 2 of these words that you're going to include in your presentation, like as a style. So for example, lead, right? You're going to show great leadership when you are presenting. Or you're going to liberate people with your presentation, right? Or maybe you're going to be more of a facilitator. You're going to facilitate. So you're going to be more asking questions and getting other people involved in the presentation. Or we have, let's see, command, get people to advance, negotiate. Okay, good. Dustin, illuminate and understand, perfect. Got a lot of understand, right? Miriam, Nathan says build and deliver. Ronnie says consider. Awesome. So this really shows a lot about your style of presentation. We all have our own style, right? I have my style. I'm more of a mentor. I love to discuss. I love to facilitate. You know, I love to encourage. You know, and you can find all these words on here. I love communication, right? Communicate. Appreciate an adventure. There we go, Cortland. Awesome. Okay, so this will help you in really thinking about your archetypes, your character and your way, your style when you're presenting. This will really help you when you're rehearsing. It'll help you kind of gel in on solidify your style of presentation. It makes you better. It helps you to really understand where you're coming from when you're speaking, so you speak with more confidence. Okay. So yeah, if you can, make sure you use the book and write down a good 5 of these that you like that will help you, and that will be your style. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. And finally, visual vertigo. What is it? Well, you're using animation wrong when it doesn't add value, right? It doesn't add value. Here, I'm going to click this off right here because I don't need to see the chat box anymore for now. So it doesn't add value to the content or serve a purpose. So again, remember I was saying animate, but be careful, make sure it serves a purpose, make sure it's not going to distract from you. Too much animation confuses the purpose. Be careful with animation. There's no reason for that. Animation is unnatural or counterintuitive. And that would be like if I just used what you saw there and all of my pull-up points, what would the point be? It wouldn't even make sense, right? Like that. The pace is annoying or chaotic, right? Like that. The animation style is inappropriate for the content. A sudden animation surprise or startles the audience. A sudden animation surprises or startles the audience. Like that. It's like, oh, what was that? The movement distracts the audience from the presenter. No good. And finally, this stuff just cracks me up. The animation feature is used just because it looks fun or interesting. Just throw it in there. Don't do that. And one of the last things I'm going to mention here is color in your presentation. So one of the most important factors of any design is color. Color reflects the mood of a design and can evoke emotions, right? Feelings, and even some memories. So figuring out which colors work well with others isn't just a matter of chance. There is actually a science called color theory behind which colors work well together. It's also called color vibration. Color theory, color vibration. So let's look at a fantastic article on color design briefly. I want to show you this. Here it is. Color Theory 101. This is a fantastic article, and I'm going to copy and see. And I'm going to paste it in the chat box for you guys. What's happening over there? I don't know. There we go. So if you're on with me live, you can click on that. What's happening there? What is it doing? What is it doing? No. Okay. So they go over primary colors, right? You have yellow, red, blue. And then it says secondary colors, and then it says tertiary colors, and then it goes into complementary colors. And it says if you use, like on the opposite end of the wheel, 2 colors, that's very complementary. If you're trying to design a slideshow and you want maybe 2 basic colors, just grab 2 that are across from each other, and they complement each other very nicely. Okay. You can see them here together. You have analogous, I don't know if I'm saying the word, analogous colors. I don't know if I can pronounce that right. I'm a reader. Oh boy. Anyways, you can see them right here. Whenever you go to like Home Depot or anything and you want to do some painting, a lot of times you'll see the 3 colors together, or maybe even sometimes 4 colors that work well together, and they're like this. You have triads, they go into that, split complementary colors, square colors, So make sure you look through this article. It's fantastic. Go into color meanings, yellow, green, blue. So this is sitepoint.com/color theory 101-2. Right. Oh, TED Talks and alternatives to TED. So in our discussion board this week, we're going to analyze a presenter, right? That's due tonight. This is someone who inspires you. My favorite and inspirational speaker, unfortunately, has passed away now, Steve Jobs. So, find yours. And here's some websites for you to use if you don't want to use TED. I think TED is fantastic, though. Right here we have Oprah, Vimeo, Capture Your Flag, YouTube. In fact, right, here's TED. I love TED.com. Wonderful place for talks. And you have YouTube. This is at Google Talks, and they have like a nice little breakdown here of different talks, popular uploads, musicians, films, food, television. It's just different speakers, different presentations. So, all right, guys. Any questions about your discussion tonight, or any questions about your your project for the week? Your project for the week is, remember, you're planning a presentation, you're planning your final presentation for the whole semester, and this is, you're just in the planning stage. So you're going to write an outline or something similar to an outline. I'm going to take you off. Let me take you off. Yeah. Anybody want to say anything? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Is there any way I can call you? Yeah, you can call me after the session. Yeah, Ronnie. That's fine. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and good luck on all your work this semester, this week. If you need anything, please text me, call me. You can text me and say, hey, can I give you a call in 10 minutes? Can I give you a call tonight? And I'll tell you when I'm available. Just like Ronnie, 5 minutes sounds good. All right, cool, guys. Cortland, awesome. Well, you can sign off whenever you're done here if you don't have any more questions. Good night, guys. Good night, Dustin. Thanks for joining me. Sorry we couldn't have verbal discussions there because of the issues with the audio. I don't know what's going on with that. Night. I'm going to take you guys off recording now. Bye, everybody.